January 2nd, 1935, a man walked into the Hotel President in Kansas City. He carried no luggage, only a comb and a toothbrush. He was well dressed, but his face bore the marks of a difficult life, a cauliflower ear and a long, pale scar across his scalp. He signed the register with a name that did not belong to him, Roland T. Owen. He requested an interior room, one that did not face the street. He was given the key to room 1046. What followed over the next 2 days was a series of bizarre encounters and cryptic clues that would spiral into one of America's most baffling and brutal unsolved crimes. The man in room 1046 would undergo an agonizing ordeal for hours, in a room that was locked from the inside. Some mysteries are defined by a wealth of evidence, others by a complete lack of it. The case of Roland T. Owen is a paradox. It is a story crowded with phantoms, unseen visitors, mysterious phone calls, and cryptic notes. Yet the crime scene itself was a vacuum, wiped clean of any identity, any weapon, and any rational explanation. From the moment he checked in, the behavior of the man in room 1046 was peculiar. Mary Soptic, a hotel maid, was one of the few people to see him. She noted that he seemed anxious, constantly agitated. He insisted on keeping the room in near total darkness, with the shades tightly drawn and only a single, low-wattage lamp for light. When she entered to clean, she found him sitting on the bed, his back to the door. He told her not to lock the door when she left, as he was expecting a friend. Later that day, she returned with fresh towels. This time, the door was locked from the outside. She knocked, and Owen let her in. Inside, she saw him talking on the phone. She overheard a single, strange phrase. "No, Don, I don't want to eat. I am not hungry. I just had breakfast." The next morning, the maid found the door locked again. She used her passkey, but was met by a voice from the darkness. It was not Owen's. It was deeper, more aggressive. It told her they didn't need towels. The maid left, confused. Who was in the room with Roland Owen? The mystery of room 1046 is a story of muffled voices and unseen visitors. Later that same day, the maid returned. The door was unlocked, as Owen had originally requested, but inside, she found him lying on the bed, seemingly asleep in the dark room. On the bedside table was a note. "Don, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." The identity of Don is the first great ghost of this case. Was he the friend Owen was waiting for? Was he the aggressive voice the maid heard on the phone? The hotel staff never saw anyone matching that name enter or leave the room. Yet, the presence of another person was undeniable. Later that evening, a woman staying at the hotel reported hearing loud voices, a man and a woman,
"Get out of here!"
arguing violently in or near room 1046. The hotel's staff, however, heard nothing. On the morning of January 4th, the mystery spiraled into horror. The hotel telephone operator noticed that the phone in 1046 had been off the hook for hours. She sent a bellboy, Randolph Probst, to check on the guest. He found the "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door. He knocked repeatedly, but there was no answer. A muffled voice from within simply told him to come back in an hour. An hour later, the phone was still off the hook. Probst returned, knocked again, and this time heard no response. Using a passkey, he opened the door, only to find it locked from the inside by a bolt. Now concerned, he got the hotel manager. Together, they unlocked the door. The room was a slaughterhouse. Blood spattered the walls, the bedding, and the ceiling. Owen was naked, huddled on the floor in the corner of the room. He had been tied up with cord around his neck, wrists, and ankles. He had been stabbed multiple times. His skull was fractured. Incredibly, he was still breathing. The police arrived to a scene that made no sense. Owen was alive, but his injuries were catastrophic, and the door had been locked securely from the inside. At the hospital, before succumbing to his injuries, Owen was asked who had done this to him, who was in the room with him. His reply was a single, cryptic word: nobody. When asked what caused his injuries, he offered an explanation that was even more baffling. "I fell against the bathtub." Then he slipped into a coma and died. The investigation hit a wall almost immediately. The room had been wiped clean. There were no fingerprints, except for some belonging to a woman on the telephone stand, but they were never identified. The police found no clothes in the room, no weapon, no knife, no club, nothing that could have inflicted the brutal injuries. The only items recovered were a hairpin, a safety pin, an unsmoked cigarette, and a small, unlabeled bottle of diluted sulfuric acid. The cords used to bind Owen were also gone. It was as if the killer had systematically erased themselves and the tools of their crime from a room that was physically impossible to exit. The mystery only deepened. As the story hit the newspapers, a local funeral home received an anonymous phone call. The caller offered to pay for Owen's burial, demanding he be laid to rest in a specific, expensive plot, and that the funeral remain private. Later, a delivery of 13 American beauty roses arrived for the funeral. The card read simply, "Love forever, Louise." The police were never able to identify the caller or Louise. For 2 years, the man in room 1046 was a ghost, buried under a false name. It wasn't until 1937 that the truth of his identity was revealed. A friend of a woman named Ruby Ogletree read about the case and realized the details matched the story of Ruby's missing son. Roland T. Owen was in fact Artemis Ogletree, a 17-year-old from Alabama. His mother, Ruby, provided a new, heartbreaking layer to the mystery. She explained that in the year before his death, Artemis had become distant. He had left home and sent a series of strange, typed letters from various cities, often mentioning a planned trip to Egypt. The letters were cold, impersonal, and spoke of a wealthy, influential new acquaintance. His mother was convinced the letters weren't written by him, but by someone else dictating his life. The last letter she received arrived after Artemis was already dead. The mystery of his final year was as deep as the mystery of his final hours. So who killed Artemis Ogletree? Was it Dawn, the aggressive voice on the phone? Was it Louise, who paid for his funeral but never came forward? Was it a mob deal gone wrong? Or a love affair that ended in a brutal, ritualistic murder? The locked room, the missing weapon, and the victim's final defiant word, nobody, leave a perfect vacuum. A story with 1,000 questions, where every clue only deepens the darkness, and the ghost of room 1046 remains, forever, unsolved.